Okay, I want you to picture a glass box. It's sitting right in the middle of a public square. Year's 2004, Federation Square, Melbourne. It's hot, it's loud, and inside this box, it's basically a human aquarium, are three musicians trying to record an album.
And they can't get out. They're stuck in there for weeks on end.
Right. They're eating in there, sleeping in there, probably arguing in there. And all day long, you've got commuters, tourists, school kids pressing their faces up against the glass, just watching them like they're zoo animals. For most bands, this would be a nightmare, a torture test.
Or, you know, just a psychological breakdown waiting to happen.
Exactly. But for the band we're talking about today, this wasn't some kind of punishment. It was a strategy. This is the story of Regurgitator, a band that, I mean, if you look at their whole career, it seems like they spent 30 years actively trying to destroy it.
Yeah, and somehow only became more successful every single time they lit the match.
It's this paradox of, what do you call it, anti-careerism.
It really is. I mean, usually in the music industry, you find a sound, it works, and you just repeat it until the wheels fall off. Regurgitator did the exact opposite. They'd find a sound that worked, get bored with it, mock the fans who liked it, and then just pivot to something completely different.
We're talking about a band that went from, like, heavy alternative rock to 80s synth pop to recording in a bubble to making children's music.
Yeah.
And somehow, they're still one of the most respected acts in Australian music history.
It creates a fascinating case study. How does a band that's defined by cynicism, by genre mashing, by just refusing to play the game, how do they outlast their peers who followed all the rules?
That's the mission today, to try and understand the method behind all that madness. And honestly, if you look at how they started, it's almost funny we're even talking about a career, because this was never supposed to be a real band.
No, not at all. It was a distraction. If you go back to Brisbane, 1993, the music scene there was incredibly incestuous. Everyone was in everyone else's band. You had Quan Yeomans, Ben Ely, and Martin Lee.
The holy trinity of Brisbane weirdness.
And they supposedly met on a bus. Just a chance encounter on public transport. But these guys were already established musicians. Ben Ely was in a band called Pangaea, which was a pretty big deal locally. Quan was in a band called Zoorastia. Regurgitator was just what they did for fun.
It's the side hustle, the place where they could just dump all the weird ideas that didn't fit in their serious bands.
Which is often where the best art comes from, right? When there's no pressure. But the industry didn't really see it that way at first. There's this great story about how they got signed. A rep from Warner Music, Michael Parisi, he flies up to Brisbane. He was there to court Ben Ely, but for Pangaea.
He wanted the serious band.
He did. Pangaea had the live chops, they had a following. But the manager, Paul Curtis, who is a legend for managing this chaos for decades, he slips Parisi a tape of Regurgitator.
The old bait and switch.
Exactly. So Parisi listens to the tape, and he hears something that Pangaea just didn't have. He called it a hook. There was this, like, pop sensibility buried under all the noise, so Warner ends up signing the side project instead of the main act.
That must have been a weird dynamic for Ben Ely. Hey, they don't want our main band, they want the joke band. But they signed the deal in '95, put out a couple EPs, get some airplay with a song called Blubber Boy.
Yeah.
And now, you know, standard industry practice here is you've got a major label budget for your first album.
Yeah, you book a nice studio in Sydney, maybe Melbourne.
Get a producer who works with Nirvana or something.
That would be the logical thing to do. Regurgitator, however, took that budget and flew to Bangkok.
In 1996.
Yeah. And you have to remember, recording in Asia wasn't this trendy thing to do back then. It was just logistical chaos. They set up in a pop music studio right in the middle of the city.
And Bangkok in the 90s. That is just sensory overload. The heat, the river, the traffic. You can almost hear the humidity on the record.
You really can. The album, Tu Plang, is named after the Thai word for jukebox. And that title is just perfect because the album sounds like someone is smashing the buttons on a jukebox at random.
It's total sonic whiplash. You have a track like Kung Fu Sing, which is this crunchy, guitar-heavy rock riff. But then the vocals are rapped, and the beat is almost hip-hop.
It was a collision of styles that, on paper, just shouldn't work together. They were mixing metal, funk, rap, pop. But it wasn't just the sound that was aggressive, it was the lyrics. Quan Yeomans had this very specific, very cynical worldview.
Cynical is putting it lightly. He was writing songs that were deliberately offensive.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to talk about the track, I Sucked a Lot of Cock to Get Where I Am.
A title that instantly grabs your attention for obvious reasons.
And it is not a metaphor.
No. And naturally, the establishment absolutely hated it. You had Alan Jones, the king of conservative talk radio, launching a whole campaign to get the song banned. He was just appalled by the obscenity.
Which, I mean, knowing Regurgitator, that probably just felt like free marketing.
It absolutely was. It positioned them as the outsiders, the punks inside the major label system. And despite, or maybe because of that controversy, Tuplang was a monster hit. It went platinum. They won the ARIA for Best Alternative Release. They were suddenly one of the biggest bands in the country.
So here they are. They've accidentally become rock stars with their side project. They've got the platinum plaque. The smart move now is to make Tuplang Part 2. Give the people more of that rock rap stuff. Keep Alan Jones angry.
And this is where that anti-careerism really, really kicks in.
Yeah.
It's 1997. They retreat to this warehouse in Brisbane they call the Dirty Room. And instead of cranking up the guitar amps, they start messing around with synthesizers.
This is the pivot that defines them. The album unit. If you were a fan of Australian rock in 1997, you were listening to Grinspoon, Silverchair, heavy guitars. Post-grunge was the law of the land.
And Regurgitator comes out with an album that sounds like a warped 80s pop record. It's all bubbly, electronic, it's got drum machines. It was the complete antithesis of cool rock at the time.
It was almost a troll move. And they were so aware of what they were doing that they literally warn you on the very first track.
I like your old stuff better than your new stuff.
It's just genius. It's the first thing you hear. They're mocking the listener before the listener even has a chance to form an opinion.
Well, it's a defense mechanism. By saying it first, they take all the power away from the critics. They're basically saying, we know this is different, we know you might hate it, and frankly, we don't care.
But the joke was on them because people didn't hate it. They loved it even more.
It backfired in the best possible way. Polyester Girl became this huge anthem. Black Bugs was everywhere. Unit went triple platinum. It won 5 ARIAs, including Album of the Year. They beat Savage Garden. They beat The Living End.
They tried to alienate their rock fan base with a pop album and ended up becoming the biggest pop band in the country. But while the public was seeing this massive success, the internal reality of the band was getting really dark. Like thriller movie dark.
Yeah, this is the story that often gets glossed over because the music itself was so fun. It's late 1997. They're on the unit tour. They're in Perth. And Martin Lee, the drummer, just doesn't show up for a gig.
Which, for a touring band, is the ultimate panic moment.
It's terrifying. He'd been at a nightclub the night before and just vanished. He was found the next day unconscious. He spent a full week in a coma in a Perth hospital.
A week in a coma. That is, wow, that's heavy.
It's incredibly serious. And the really scary part is when he woke up, he had total amnesia about the event. To this day, there's no clear public account of exactly what happened to him. It's just a blank space.
So you have the band at the absolute peak of their fame. Polyester Girl is blasting out of every car radio, and their drummer is in a hospital bed with a huge gap in his memory. They still had shows to play, though. They couldn't just stop the machine.
No, the machine keeps moving. So they brought in a fill-in drummer, John Coghill.
From Powderfinger.
Right. And this is where the cultural clash becomes really interesting. Powderfinger and Regurgitator were both from Brisbane, but they were from different planets, socially.
Yeah, Powderfinger were the Golden Boys. Polished, earnest, melodic rock.
Exactly. And Quan Yeomans was pretty open about the friction. He later described Powderfinger as private schoolboys from a different social strata. It wasn't just a musical mismatch, it was a total vibe mismatch. You can imagine the tension of having this outsider step into their weird, cynical little circle.
It really highlights how insular Regurgitator was. They were a gang. But Martin recovers, eventually. Yeah. But things didn't just snap back to normal, did they?
No. That kind of trauma leaves a mark. When they went to record the follow-up album, .art, in 1999, the whole dynamic had shifted. They rented a beach house in Byron Bay, which sounds idyllic, but Martin Lee felt like he was being pushed out.
Well, you look at Unit with its electronic sound, they were using more and more drum machines.
Yeah.
If you're the drummer and the songwriter's obsessed with the drum machine, you start wondering, so, why am I here?
Exactly. The machine was replacing the man. Plus, Quan didn't want to record in the dirty room anymore, which Martin had helped build. Lee felt undervalued, excluded from the creative process. So in late 1999, he leaves.
Creative differences. The classic breakup line.
But in this case, it was very real. He was replaced by Peter Caustic from the Hard-Ons, another legendary Australian punk band. So the lineup stabilizes, but the relationship with the major label with Warner is starting to rot.
Right, because remember, Warner signed them because of that hook. But by 2001, Regurgitator is in London, recording an album called Eduardo and Rodriguez Wage War on T-Rex.
Great title.
Classic title. But the music,
Mhm.
it's hip-hop heavy, it's weird, it's dark, and Warner's listening to this going, okay, but where's the next Polyester Girl?
Warner was frustrated. They basically accused the band of lacking commercial motivation, which is hilarious because the band never even claimed to have commercial motivation. They were motivated by boredom and art.
So the label drops them. Or they mutually agree to part ways. And honestly, for most bands, this is the death knell. You lose the funding, you lose distribution, you fade away playing pub gigs.
But Regurgitator saw it as liberation. And this brings us right back to where we started, the bubble.
2004.
Yeah.
Band in a bubble. Now that we know the history, the rejection of fame, the boredom with standard studios, this whole stunt makes so much more sense.
It was a way to force creativity through constraint. They partnered with Channel V, they built that glass studio in Federation Square, and they turned the entire recording process into a reality TV show.
Just imagine the psychology of that. You're trying to write a lyric, maybe you're feeling vulnerable or stuck, and there's a guy just eating a sandwich on the other side of the glass, staring at you.
It's the ultimate exposure. It plays with the whole idea of the rock star as a commodity. You want to consume us, fine. Watch us grit our teeth, watch us sleep. It completely demystified the whole process.
And the music that came out of it, the album Mishmash,
Yeah.
it sounds frantic.
It does. It has this nervous energy. It's maybe not their most polished work, but it's arguably their most honest. It proved they could generate attention and create art without a major label marketing budget. They just needed a high-concept stunt.
And they kept chasing that stunt energy, or maybe just the novelty of new places.
Yeah.
Because after the bubble, they didn't go back to a normal studio. They went to Brazil.
Right. For Love and Paranoia in 2007, they flew to Rio. Then later, for Dirty Pop Fantasy, they recorded in an apartment in Hong Kong.
It seems like they were using the location as another instrument. Like, we're bored at guitarists, let's see what Rio sounds like.
I think it's escapism. By this point, the band members were living all over the place. Quan was in Hong Kong, Ben was in Melbourne. They were pretty fragmented. The band was becoming more of a periodic meeting of old friends than a full-time job.
Which led to the hiatus in 2013. Quan had his first kid. The logistics were a nightmare. They basically just said, we're done for a while.
And usually indefinite hiatus is just polite code for, we hate each other and we're never playing again.
But not these guys. They took a break, lived some life, and came back in 2015. But the comeback isn't the surprise. The surprise is what they pivoted to next, in 2019.
This is my favorite twist in the entire saga, the Pagogo Show.
The band that wrote I Sucked a Lot Of. You know what? The band that was threatened by Alan Jones for being obscene releases a children's album.
The really, 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 really boring album.
Which is the best title for a kid's album ever.
It really is, and it makes you realize something profound about their music. Regurgitator has always been a bit cartoonish. The bright synths, the high energy, the silly voices, the costumes. It was always playground music, just with adult lyrics.
You just take the profanity out and it reveals what was underneath the whole time. Pure, chaotic fun.
Exactly. Kids respond to that same manic energy just as well as stoned teenagers in the 90s did. And of course, in true Regurgitator fashion, the album was a critical darling. It won the ARIA Award for Best Independent Children's Album.
It's the ultimate anti-career move. Oh, you think we're aging rockers who should be playing our greatest hits on the nostalgia circuit? Watch this. We're going to play songs for toddlers.
And then, just to keep you guessing, they pivot right back. 2023, they celebrate 25 years of Unit. They're opening for Weezer. They're opening for Kiss.
That is a visual I just love. The Kiss Army in all their makeup and leather, watching Ben and Quan jump around like complete maniacs.
It's perfect. Kiss is all about the brand, the logo, the consistency. Regurgitator is all about the mess, the change, the refusal to be branded, and yet there they were sharing a stage.
And they just dropped a new album, Invader, in 2024. They're still making new music, still refusing to just be a heritage act.
Which is so rare. Most bands from the 90s are stuck in amber. They play the hits. They look a bit tired. Regurgitator still feels dangerous. Maybe not dangerous, but definitely unpredictable.
So if we step back and look at this whole timeline, from the bus in Brisbane to the Bangkok heat, to the platinum pop of Unit, the coma, the bubble, the kids' music, what's the lesson here?
I think the lesson is that career planning is probably overrated. If Regurgitator had listened to Warner Music, they would have made Two Playing Two, bored themselves to death, and broken up by 1999.
They survived by destroying themselves.
Precisely. They burned down their own image every 3 years. And by doing that, They never let the concrete set. They stayed flexible. The anti-careerism was actually the best career move they could have possibly made.
It's a validation of boredom. They let their boredom guide them. I'm bored of rock, let's do pop. I'm bored of studios, let's sit in a glass box. I'm bored of adults, let's play for kids.
And in a world where we're all told to curate our personal brands, to stay on message, to be consistent, Regurgitator is just this great reminder that you can be messy, you can be contradictory, and you can still win.
Maybe you even win because you're messy.
I think so. Longevity doesn't come from standing still. It comes from being a moving target.
So next time you feel like you're stuck in a rut or you're worried about what people will think if you change your style, just ask yourself, what would Regurgitator do?
They probably build a bubble and lock themselves in it.
Or write a song about how much they hate their own fans.
Yeah.
Either way, it seems to work. Thanks for diving deep with us into the chaos of Regurgitator. Go listen to Unit, go listen to the kids' album, and see if you can hear the thread that connects them. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.